Good evening, everyone. Yasari, good evening. Zaid, good evening. Pranchi, good evening. Jatin, Aarti, long time Aarti. Not very regular these days. What happened? Rajshekhar, Himanshu, Jyoti, Shivam. So, how is your weekend going, everyone? Okay, why not productive, Rajshekhar? How many of you are from Bihar? Good evening, Kritika. Rajshekhar, you're from Odisha? Okay. Understand, Rajshekhar. Shall we start? Or should we wait for a minute or two also? Now we are going to talk about specialty fertilizer, but before that we need to understand something. Read the context. China has suspended exports of urea and specialty fertilizers from October the 15th until further notice. Does this signify a particular instance? Can anyone tell me what does this signify? This signifies weaponization of trade. That countries, not just China, but other countries also, they are weaponizing the mechanism of trade. Now, what was the principle based on which the global trade happens? What is the principle on which the global trade happens? Can anyone let me know? I'm going to come to the examples also, but can you tell me the core principle, what is behind world trade that has been subscribed by World Trade Organization also? Free and fair trade. Don't you think this is the principle based on which the trade across the world happened? This is what became the basis of what we know as globalization. Understood? Do anyone has a doubt in this particular instance? Now, what are hurdles to this free and fair trade? Can anyone let me know what are hurdles to this free and fair trade? Tell me, students, what are the hurdles for this free and fair trade? Tariffs, good. First instance, from United States point of view, it is imposing tariff on all the countries it trades with, regardless of whether that country is a friend or an ally of US or whether that country is an enemy. Anything else US is imposing that is going against the principle of free and fair trade? It is imposing economic sanctions. It is imposing sanctions on Russia, and it is threatening countries like India and China who trades a lot with Russia. So this is a hurdle of free and fair trade. Can anyone let me know what kind of hurdles does European Union impose? Students, Chanu, can anyone tell me, or Chanu particularly you, what kind of hurdles does European Union impose on trade? It imposes hurdles in market access. Can you name one example? Anyone? Have you heard of this? CBAM. Can anyone tell me what is the full form of CBAM? What is CBAM? Akshay? ASB? Carbon border adjustment mechanism. This is a kind of tariff that EU imposes on any import that comes from a, right? So suppose if I'm making steel using coal energy, and if India is making steel and exporting that to Europe, Europe will charge higher tariff on that, saying that under the garb of climate change, they are modifying their tariff regime so as to suit their circumstances. Good. Can anyone let me what kind of hurdles is China creating? What kind of hurdles is China creating? Yes. Export controls. What kind of export controls? On rare earth elements, on fertilizers, on important chemicals like advanced or active pharmaceutical ingredients, right? Understood? Any doubts up till now? Dumping is not a free and fair trade problem. Dumping is a problem for India's side, not from China's side. Well, about test ASB, the operations team will let you know. I don't have the schedule regarding the test, okay? So you please ask them. Now tell me, how is this challenging for India? How are these challenges or how are these hurdles to free and fair trade challenging for our country? Can anyone tell me? How is this challenging for India? First of all, India is an importer of essential commodities. Right? What are those essential commodities? So disruption in supply of crude oil leads to what? Disruption in the supply of crude oil leads to what? It leads to vulnerability to energy security. Right? It increases the prices of raw materials. So, how would it affect our export competitiveness when raw materials costs are increasing? it increases or decreases our trade competitiveness, or it increases or decreases, it decreases our export competitiveness. Anything else? Any other problem that you can think of? There are other problems. Now suppose if I am trying to diversify my crude oil imports from importing from countries like Russia, with which we weren't importing that much. So now if we are stopped from importing from Russia, don't you think it would increase our dependence on countries of Middle East? Right? Any other problem you can think of? It would also lead to technological gaps. You know how? Now, why is raw earth element or rare earth element or import of these element essential for us? We were going to use these rare earth elements to manufacture what is called as electric vehicles. So this shows that we are upgrading on our technology. But if this is disrupted, don't you think our electrification drive would suffer? So these are the problems. Now let us come back to our discussion of specialty fertilizers. What do you think are specialty fertilizers? Any idea? Is urea, is DAP, is MOP a specialty fertilizer? Tell me. Well, specialty fertilizers are high performance customized fertilizers. And what makes them high performing and customizable is that they can release nutrients in a controlled or targeted manner. And what are the benefits of controlled release of nutrients and targeted release of nutrients is that it improves the nutrient efficiency and thereby it increases the agricultural productivity. Right? So what are the features that makes a fertilizer specialty fertilizer? This is important. It provides precise nutrient delivery, it minimizes nutrient loss, and they are often water soluble and compatible with drip irrigation and foliage application. So these are essential features of what makes a fertilizer a specialty fertilizer. Examples are right in front of you. TMAP, technical monoammonium phosphate, right? As the name suggests, it consists of nitrogen and phosphorus. AdBlue is a liquid solution of urea, which is used both in agriculture and as diesel exhaust fluid. Similarly, it is also chelated micronutrient fertilizers, which provide controlled release of urea and liquid fertilizers. So these examples are important, but what is more important? What makes a fertilizer a specialty fertilizer? Understood how I've linked this topic with international relation and how we have come up with another discussion also. So interlinking of topics is important. Now this kind of question might appear in prelims, but from mains perspective, what becomes important is weaponization of trade. Okay? Doubts? Any doubts, students? Now, how this weaponization of trade, particularly with respect to specialty fertilizers, affects India? First is that India is a big manufacturer of urea. India is a decent manufacturer of DAP, but it does not manufacture MOP. Whereas specialty fertilizers is concerned, India imports nearly 95% of its specialty fertilizers, and which country it is dependent on? One country, that is China. And if there is an import ban or export ban from China's side, don't you think we'd have to source this from another expensive source, and this would add to the raw material cost, and ultimately this will lead to increased prices of agricultural commodities, and this would lead to what kind of inflation in India? This would lead to what kind of inflation in India? No, this is not to hurt India. This is basically to hurt United States. No, it is not demand pull inflation. It is cost push inflation. Understand the difference between these two terms? Anyone who has a doubt? Yes, it is also an example of food inflation. Good, Shivam. Whenever cost of production increases due to increase in labor cost, due to increase in raw material, due to increase in taxes, that is called as cost push inflation. Cost has increased, so it has pushed inflation. Or whenever there is a increase in inflation due to high demand, when people have a lot of money, that is called as demand pull inflation. When people have a lot of money, that will generate a lot of demand for goods and services. So when supply does not rise accordingly, it leads to demand pull inflation. Understood the difference? Demand pull and cost push? Now suppose if I reduce income tax, right? If I increase income tax in India, right? This is an example of cost push inflation, is it? No. You know why? When I tax on income, it leads to less disposable income. So people would have less money now to spend. So when people have less money to spend, don't you think this would create lesser demand, right? And it would lead to slowdown. On the other hand, if I increase GST, this would add to the final prices of goods and services, and therefore it would lead to inflation. What kind of inflation? Cost push. So increase in indirect taxes leads to cost push inflation, whereas decrease in direct taxes leads to demand pull inflation. अब समझ आया? Yes, CPI. Now is it clear? Students, बोलोगे नहीं तो मुझे कैसे पता चलेगा? How would I know if you don't tell me? Okay, good. Now ये report जो है ना, what is this report? You just have to read it. Don't have to remember each and everything, okay? Just give it a read. What is important is UNEP, okay? UNEP, which brought that report, I skipped. For very good reason, I skipped it. What is important in this discussion is, what is UNEP? UNEP is a special UN body responsible for environment, and it was established after UN Conference for Human Environment, that is called as Stockholm Conference. Where is it headquartered? This is different. This is headquartered in Kenya, right? So how many of your bodies that you think are headquartered in smaller countries? So this is important. ये याद रखेगा? ये याद रहेगा? Where is UNEP headquartered? Not in a picturesque location, not in Europe, but in Kenya. Now, what is important from UNEP side? कि which kind of report it publishes. It publishes emissions gap report. It publishes global environment outlook. Okay. It publishes emissions gap report. It publishes global environment outlook. And it guides government in designing environmentally sound policies and regulations. Similarly, it also coordinates with global agreements like Paris Agreement, Montreal Protocol, and Convention on Biological Diversity. What is Paris Agreement? Can anyone tell me? What was Paris Agreement? Climate Agreement. Can anyone recall what was the target of Paris Agreement? Not CO2 emissions less than 2%. That in Paris Agreement, all the countries, all the signatories of Paris Agreement, they agreed that they will control the global rise in temperature up till 2 degrees centigrade. And they will make all efforts to regulate this increase in temperatures up till 1.5 degrees centigrade. So they said that yes, in any ways we are going to control the global rise in temperature by 2 degrees centigrade, but we will do everything possible to ensure that this does not rise beyond 1.5 degrees centigrade. So this was a flexibility given to the countries. समझ आया? So when you ask your friend कि 12 बजे तक पहुंच जाओगे, your friend says that no, I will reach by 1. But I will make all efforts to reach early by 12:30. But you know what would happen? Your friends probably won't even show up by 1 p.m. होता है ना ये? कहाँ हो? Oh, I've left my home, but you'll realize he has just gotten up. किस friends करते हैं ये सब? How many of your friends are not so very punctual? Students, किसने experience किया है? So whenever you call your friends and ask them to meet you at 1, they'd say that yes, I've left my home. But in reality, you'd realize that friend of yours has just gotten up. He has to get ready, he has to book a cab, he has to book a Rapido, and then he'd come. सबके साथ होता है ये. And also the chance that you must have done this to someone also. You know, this happens a lot when I observe people in Delhi metro. The metro must be leaving one station and that person would say, no, I have left a station which will come in half an hour. So it said that मैं निकल गया हूँ राजीव चौक से. And you'd realize metro would still take half an hour to reach Rajiv Chowk. Rajiv Chowk is basically the Delhi metro station for Connaught Place. Have you heard of Connaught Place? Anyone? CP? Everyone does it, Akshay. Even I have done it. That is something very Indian. Now it also celebrates World Environment Day, which is the day at which World Environment Day happens, 5th June. नहीं याद होगा तो याद कर लेना. So what you'll have to remember in this UNEP, where is it headquartered? What kind of report it bring? Okay. And yes, tell me, what is Montreal Protocol for? What was Montreal Protocol for? You know, once I went to Japan, I realized one very good thing there. People in Japan are punctual by the minute of the time. So if someone would say in Japan that yes, I will meet you at 1:12 p.m. 1 and 12 minutes after 1. they are so specific about time, and that person would show up actually to meet you at 1:12. It happened with me. I had to catch a bullet train from Tokyo to Hamamatsu. So I was expecting a courier that was to be delivered to me on the platform of the train, right? So the person who called me said that, when is your train leaving? I said 1 p.m. So that person said that at 12:57, the courier guy would show up right in front of your coach and you have to collect your parcel. I'd say, what kind of joke you're doing? I'm expected to leave by 1. How do you think that person would show up? That person on the call said, sir, believe me, he would show up at 12:57. And you won't believe when I say this, he actually came in front of my coach at 12:57. So this is the level of precision. This is the level of punctuality Japanese people are used to. Have you heard of this level of precision anywhere? In Japanese company, if you have to attend the office from 9 to 6, let us suppose your office timing are from 9 to 6. If you punch in or if you log in at 9:01, your half day pay is gone. And if you punch out even 1 minute before 6 p.m., your half day pay is gone. And why is that so? So that people are punctual. They're very micromanaging, but that micromanagement, that enforcement of quality has paid Japan very rich dividends. But I think so, not just for Indian Army, but everybody should have this kind of punctuality in their life with respect to time, with respect to every other aspect of your life. Now we'll talk about this. This is a very interesting article. The scientists from ICAR, that is National Bureau of Agricultural Insect Resources, have successfully controlled cassava mealybug outbreak in southern part of our country using a biological control agent. And this biological control agent is called as Anagrus lopezi. So tell me, what is a biological control agent? Why do you think something is called as biological control agent? I know you guys are not farmers, and it's okay. Predator of pest. But what kind of a predator? Control agent is basically the ones that you use to control the pest, right? Biological control agent is that when you use other microorganisms to control the pest. So this is a tiny parasitic wasp, right? And it acts as a biological control agent against the cassava mealybug, which is an invasive pest native to India, no, South America. And this parasitic wasp, what it does, that the female wasp, it lays its egg inside the mealybug, and the larva itself, it feeds on the pest from within, eventually killing it. So we are not using chemicals which might be harmful in nature, but we are using natural processes to control the pests. So this is the benefit of it. That if we use chemical, don't you think it would create negative impact on human health? The ones who consume cassava. We'll talk about cassava, don't worry. And this is a species specific. So this parasitic wasp can be used for cassava mealybug, but won't be used for other kind of pests, right? Now let us talk about cassava. What do you think this is cassava? Have you heard of sweet potato? Anyone? I don't know what in Hindi it is called, sweet potato, sugar, some kand करके बोलते हैं. I don't remember the name. Shakarkand, yes, Shakarkand, good. This looks like sweet potato, but it isn't sweet potato. This is actually the image of cassava, but it is not sweet potato. Please remember this. This is called as tapioca. Tapioca. or tapioca. This looks very much like it, but it is not. This comes from an entirely different family. They have similar properties, but this is different. Now it is native to South America and it was brought in India by whom? Portuguese. What kind of other crops were brought by Portuguese in India? Good. I'm not sure about cabbage, Akshay. You can search it. I'm sure about these, the ones I've written here. They've also brought bread in India. You know, the form of bread that came earliest into India was pav, also called as pav. Have you heard of pav? The form of bread that we use in vada pav or we use in pav bhaji, that design of pav bread, right? So the bread first time arrived in India was by Portuguese and they brought it in form of pav. And that is why in Maharashtra, in Gujarat, in Goa, where Portuguese had their presence, that is why pav and pav is largely consumed in western part of our country. And you know, it was the Britishers who brought bread slices. Okay, Akshay, thank you for that. I don't know, Rajshekhar, about that. Is roti Indian? Roti must be Indian. Well, bread, roti is also a kind of bread, you can say, just made differently. So now you know this, why Marathi people, why Gujarati people, why Goan, they have a lot of pav. You know, Rajma also in Maharashtra, people eat it with pav. How is Rajma consumed naturally in India? Rajma chawal, right? Rajma with rice. But Marathi people, I've seen many of my Marathi friends having Rajma with pav. I think, what is this behavior? You know, one common thing between sweet potato and cassava is that they are rich in starch. Starch is of which kind of nutrient? Is it protein? Is it carbohydrate? Is it fiber? Cassava is this what we are discussing today. Carbohydrate. So it is rich in carbohydrate. And that is why it is used as human food, animal food, as well as industrial raw material. Where is cassava grown? In warm, humid tropical climates, which requires moderate rainfall. And what kind of soils it require? Well-drained, red and laterite soils. I don't know how many of you have attended geography lectures, but can anyone tell me where is red and lateritic soil available in India? Generally, which kind of or which part of India are these soils available? Good. Who answered this? VL, good. Akshay, good. Red soil is in Tamil Nadu. Lateritic soil in Western Ghats. Good, Akshay. And Eastern Ghats also. Good, Akshay. Good, Shivam. So, these are grown in warm, humid tropical climates and they require red and lateritic soil, which is present in southern part of our country. So, where do you think are cassava majorly grown in India? Now tell me. अरे तुम लोग को पढ़ाते पढ़ाते ना मेरा पाव भाजी खाने का मन कर रहा है. You know, one personal thing, I like pav bhaji a lot. Tomorrow is Sunday, na? I will have pav bhaji tomorrow. Yes, good. Southern side. Cassava is majorly grown in southern part of our country. I told you, high in carbohydrates because it has plenty of starch. And production in India majorly happens in, see, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and small areas of Andhra, Odisha, as well as Puducherry. And globally, these countries have the highest production of cassava. Not so important, this is important. Any doubts in cassava? Rajshekhar is very smart, ordered at the exact same time. So by the end of the class, he would have pav bhaji in his own stomach. Now, one good thing or bad thing about India that I feel is that whenever we do something important, we always highlight that India is first country or India is third country, India is fourth country ever to do this. This I feel is somewhat disparaging. We should be attempting to do things first in the world and we should not highlight it. Others should highlight it कि देखो देखो India ने or India did this. This is one another instance. The nuclear fuel complex in Hyderabad has successfully developed a technology to produce high residual resistivity ratio niobium ingots. What is high residual resistivity ratio niobium? I'll tell you that. Now the word RRR here, not the movie RRR. It stands for residual resistivity ratio, which measures the purity and conductivity of the material. So if any material has high RRR, that material is very conducting in nature or its conductivity is very high. What is the property of conductivity? Can anyone tell me? What is property of conductivity? Where do you think this property is used? Flow of the current. The better the conductor is, the more flow of current would be there. So high RRR means higher conductivity. And niobium is a very good conductor and it is just below what is known as superconductors. What is superconductors? Whenever current flows through an object, it meets some kind of resistance. In insulators, there is very high resistance so that the current won't pass. In conductors, the amount of resistance is very low so that the current would pass. But in superconductors, the resistance becomes zero, right? Very good conductors, extremely good conductors. Some materials exhibit superconducting properties, but not at room temperatures. In cryogenic temperatures. What are cryogenic temperatures? Low or high temperatures. The word cryogenic, it means low temperature, extremely low or extremely high temperatures. Himanshu? ESB? Cryogenic means very low temperatures. Essentially, minus 150 to minus 250 degrees centigrade. Very less temperature. So niobium demonstrates superconducting properties, but not at room temperature, at cryogenic temperature. And triple R niobium is a niobium which has extremely pure and high conductive property, and therefore has superconducting applications. Now, where do you need superconductors? You can use them in advanced accelerator programs, in nuclear fusion reactors, in nuclear energy research, in medical imaging system, MRIs, or superconducting magnets. And before India, only 6 countries had the potential or technology to make high RRR niobium. That was not India. Now India is also included. Well, sometimes everything is not considered just plainly from an economic point of view. Sometimes there are some kind of research which might be very cost intensive right now, but the benefits that research would pay in decades later would be very high. So for example, space research. If we are researching for space, if we are spending so much money from space, you must have heard of one argument that many people, leftist people particularly, they say that when there is extreme poverty in India, when so many people are hungry, so many people are not going to schools, why is government spending so much money on space research? The reason is, if you're spending money on space research, it not just gives you a geopolitical heft, but it also translates into benefit for agricultural sector, remote sensing, military applications. So everything can't be calculated based on this cost we are spending on that material, right? Some things have greater benefit. Good ASB. Understood? So it might not be economically sustainable right now, but it pays for rich dividends later on. Now this is important. The next article that we are going to cover, 23 for 23 initiative. This is an initiative observed for International Slow Leopard Day, right? So 23 for 23, if it appears in the exam, you will remember it. It is for snow leopard. Now I have covered snow leopard before. How many of you remember that? So what is 23 for 23 initiative? Let us talk about this. Citizens are asked out to carry out 23 minutes of physical activity, be it running, yoga, etc., on 23rd of October to spread awareness about the importance of conserving snow leopards and their fragile ecosystem in Himalayas. So snow leopards are also called as indicator species. So if snow leopards are present in certain high altitude regions, we can say that ecologically that region is good. Understood? That is why snow leopard are indicator species of high altitude regions. Now tell me HHBs of snow leopard. We have covered this, so now I am asking you to cover this. HHP, sorry. Habitats, habits and protection status. बताओ अब. स्टार्ट करो. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट स्नो लेपर्ड. बताओ, फिर मैं लिखूंगा. Not epidemic to Himalayas, endemic to Himalayas. Not endangered. Again, भूल रहे हो सब. Habitats is high altitude regions. So, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim and Ladakh. And Ladakh. Now tell me the protection status. It is not endangered. Google करो. It is vulnerable. In WPA, Schedule 1st, in sites, Appendix 1. Good. So IUCN, it's vulnerable, not endangered. याद रखना, सबने गलत दिया था इसका आंसर. Now tell me the habits. This is a species who walks on slow, right? So it has large paws. पंजा बड़ा होता है. No, I did not tell you anything about nocturnal. And if any species lives in colder climate, what do you think their ears would be like? It would be big or small? Yes, thick fur, good. Now, talking about their ears, is it big or small? Ears would be small. Any reason why ears would be small? How many of your parents have actually twisted your ear when you did something naughty in your childhood? मेरा तो हुआ है भाई. पापा मम्मी दोनों करते थे. How many of your parents twist your ear? उसके बाद क्या होता था? It would feel warm, right? It would feel warm, right? Why? Heat is being dissipated from your ear. So, in colder climates, the animals usually have smaller ears so that heat would retain in their body. Their surface area is being reduced. So, that is why their ears are small. Now, one important thing I highlighted about snow leopard, that they have a very large and thick tail. Any idea why? Poonch. Why large and thick tail? Anyone? They can wrap around their tail on their body, which would provide them with warmth. And with large tail, they can balance. So that then when they are walking on mountains, it gives them the sense of balance. अब याद रहेगा? अब याद रहेगा? What was this initiative called? To promote awareness. (23 for 23). And which species we are dealing with? Clouded leopard or snow leopard? Snow leopard. So the next time, whenever snow leopard appears in the news, I will ask you this, and I will not tell you anything. Only you guys will have to tell me what to write on the board. Done? Deal, everyone? Deal, everyone? YT पे काहे देख रहे हो अक्षय? Why you are watching it on YT if you have access to this interface where we can interact with each other in real time? I will try. No, उससे काम नहीं चलेगा राजशेखर. You'll have to remember. If I can remember, why can't you remember? What makes you different from me? Nothing. Well, it might be nocturnal, but wherever I was reading it, nocturnal ability of this species was not specifically highlighted. Okay, who is your friend Akshay? May I know him? Or do I know him? So Rajshekhar, you'll have to promise me that you'll remember this. Okay. Now the Supreme Court has directed the Jharkhand government to notify a forest in Jharkhand, Saranda Forest, as a wildlife sanctuary. This Saranda forest is located in West Singhbhum district near Odisha border. And the word Saranda means land of 700 hills. And it is land to local Ho tribals. Why is this Saranda forest famous? Because it is home to one of India's most densest sal forest. Sal is biologically known as Shorea robusta. And what kind of animals are there? Most prominently Asian elephants, sloth bears, four-horned antelopes, and diverse birds and butterflies. Now it is mainly inhabited by Ho, Munda and other Adivasi tribes. Okay, let me show you that Sal. जब ऐसे डाउट लगे ना तो पूछ लिया करो, because I can show you. Are the leaves visible now? ASB? These are the dense sal plantations. These are the dense plantations. See how green it is. Now, what is happening in this region? Basically, this is a dispute between multiple issues. First of all, Supreme Court is saying that this area is a biodiversity hotspot. So, obviously, conservation of this forest is essential. We all agree to that? Do we agree to that? So, first value that we have to ensure is environmental conservation. Understood? Now, Jharkhand government, it is not willing to designate this area as a wildlife sanctuary, or even if Supreme Court said that you will have to designate a larger area as wildlife sanctuary, Jharkhand government is saying that we want to designate it as wildlife sanctuary but smaller area. You know the reason why? Because tribal communities live there. They are dependent on forest for their livelihood, because they harness minor forest producers. So their socio-economic development is another prerogative. Similarly, this area is also famous for mining. Can you tell me what kind of resources are available in this area? Anyone? Iron. This Saranda forest has 26% of nation's iron reserves. Right? So, economic activity is important also. Understood? So, these are conflicting values. Neither is Supreme Court wrong, neither is Jharkhand government wrong. Not uranium. Basically, this is a belt known for iron, coal as well as manganese. Interview, you say that, sir, all these three values are essential and we'll have to balance all these three. How do we balance it? We allow for community engagement. We allow for sustainable development. We allow for environmental impact assessment of all developmental projects. You know what is environmental impact assessment? You know what is environmental impact assessment? Whenever a project is being drafted or a project is being proposed, the companies itself has to highlight how much damage or what kind of impact this project would have on environment. And they minimize the damage and then only they give approval. That suppose I'm constructing a highway, and to make that highway I'll have to clear the forest. So then the company who's making the highway would propose that yes, I am clearing so much amount of trees. So to compensate the absence of trees here, I'll plant more amount of trees somewhere else. So this is how you minimize the damage. Yes, environmental conservation is important, but what is also important is economic development. How would you prioritize one? You can't prioritize one. You'll have to balance both of them. That is why I told you in bureaucracy, whenever you go, you'll have to balance out. That is your job. Not deciding one against two is very easy. Balancing is the importance. Na? That is why they're conducting such a tough exam to select the best of candidates. Find the middle path. So this is what you'll say in the interview. Yes, we will develop, but not without community. Even if any development happens, this has to be sustainable development. And how sustainable development is to happen? We can approve developmental projects only after we did environmental impact assessment. Okay? आ गया समझ? Any doubts? So everyone, have a great weekend. Rajshekhar, have a great meal. Okay? I'll see you again on Monday. Bye-bye, everyone.